Ow! Greetings, YouTube. DecKrash, better known as Brandon again. Now, after that Twilight bit, time to cleanse your palate with something much better. My next review of Terra Nova. Late as usual. So sue me. Anyway, so this episode begins with Commander Taylor interrogating the happy bartender who was found out to be the guy who was giving information and working with the Sixers, though for some reason not their so-called spy. However, they did, through an interesting circumstance, learn how the Sixers were getting information in and out of Terra Nova. They were using a dragonfly they trained like a homing pigeon. You gotta remember, this is a dinosaur times 85 million years in the past. This dragonfly was about as long as my forearm. So think of that and shudder in your nightmares, those of you who are afraid of insects. We got dragonflies all the time down where I live, so no big deal. They're pretty big, but I actually like them. I think they're cute. Anyway, so as I was saying, they found a dragonfly that was being trained by a homing pigeon by the Sixers, and in the course of the story, I ended up figuring out how the Sixers were getting it to move back and forth. They were using some interesting sound wave technology. We'll get back to that shortly. The other part of the story it revolves mostly around Jim, who saw that Commander Taylor was interrogating the bartender and using drugs on him to try to get him to talk. And in one of his drug-induced stupors, the bartender ended up mentioning something about a body being hidden under a particular tree. So Jim ends up getting some information about where this tree is located and digs out there at night and, well, he finds the body. The bartender didn't exactly say it was a body. He just said, "Yeah, I could tell them what we found under the tree, and it'll break you." So Jim goes and digs and finds a body. So he gives it to his wife, who's of course one of the scientists at Terra Nova, to try to investigate to figure out just who this guy is. But they can't figure it out, even though they have DNA records of all the people who go through the time portal. So that makes for a really interesting story. On the whole, this episode is really, really awesome, and I haven't gotten to the best part. So, in his investigation, they start to understand a little bit more, because one of the interesting things about this body is that one of its arms is missing, but they couldn't tell if the person didn't have an arm to begin with, or if a dinosaur or a scavenger managed to just dig up the body and rip the arm off, for a little snack. So, as the story progresses, Jim begins to learn some really, really strange is going on. And of course, if you've been watching the show, it's always been that whole big thing, is Commander Taylor really a good guy, or does he have some ulterior motive? And of course, if you've been watching the show, you've been seeing things that have to do with his son that make you really wonder, what is the big picture? What is the big picture? What is the big picture? This episode tells you pretty much the big picture. As a matter of fact, it reveals everything. You see, and this is where we get back to the dragonfly. They end up fixing the dragonfly's wing and figuring out how the dragonfly is going back and forth by hearing this particular frequency. Now, Commander Taylor gets wind of the body. And you can tell that he's kind of affected by this because, of course, he had something to do with it. And the bartender later on, who was released from this jail that they kept him in, pretty much tells Jim that he was the one who had to help Commander Taylor to bury the body. So Commander Taylor, when he takes note of the body, it's obvious he's going to try to do something a little crazy just to kind of get the blame off of him. But it still keeps you wondering what's up with him in that body. So, when they set the dragonfly flying, it flies to Jim's house. So Commander Taylor, in the middle of this festival that's been going on throughout the entire episode, it's a big anniversary festival for Terra Nova, celebrating all the time that the colony's been together in existence. It's pretty much, I guess, it's sort of a Terra Nova equivalent to Thanksgiving, mixed with a bit of carnival spirit there. Anyway, so Commander Taylor comes up and arrests Jim, takes him into the same jail cell, and pretty much offers to, what did he say? Pretty much tried to make a deal with Jim But Jim wasn't going to have it. Finally, Commander Taylor reveals everything. Exactly what the whole purpose of Terra Nova was. Now, you see, for those of you who have been watching the show, and before I even start here, big spoilers. If you have not watched the episode and you want to, you would do well to stop right now, go watch the episode, and then come back. Okay. So, the whole big deal is, of course, there were some special interests back in the year 2149 that wanted to try to fix it so that the time portal not only is a one-way portal but can swing both ways. And of course, Commander Taylor's son, as you've been learning throughout the story, is a bit of a genius, and he's been doing these calculations. As a matter of fact, that box that Mira ends up getting back from Terra Nova was coded to the boy's DNA and contains all his work, all his records. And he was close to finding a way to cause the doorway to swing back and forth. So, therein lies the issue. You see, there were some groups of people who wanted the door to swing both ways so that they could send in people and send them back to basically rape that time period of all its natural resources. Pretty much the human race, being humans, they haven't learned a thing, even though we found a perfectly pristine paradise. We want to screw it all up to line their own pockets. And you find out that despite Commander Taylor's slightly less than likable personality in many respects, he is a man of principle and also a man who dearly loves that colony and really believed in this particular time period being a second chance for humanity. So when he discovered his son trying to conduct secret experiments, trying to make the gate open both ways, and discovered the reason why his son was doing it, he pretty much kicked him out of the colony, but not before the people in 2149 sent Commander Taylor's own mentor through the gate, that one-armed guy, and said basically, "I'm taking over as the commander of Terra Nova." Well, gunfight ensued. Guess who won? And of course, guess who was left to bury the body? And of course, Commander Taylor pretty much gave his son Das Boot. That was incredible. So now at least you know that despite Commander Taylor's slightly shifty personality, he really is a good guy, at least as far as you can see. Now, here's the question. Since this story has been showing a lot of things that are going back and forth, is he a good guy, is he a bad guy? I wonder if they're going to throw other wrenches into the plot to make you still wonder, are Commander Taylor's motives 100% pure? Or does he have some self-serving tendencies here that we have yet to learn about? And then, of course, this still leaves us with the whole deal is, how is this going to end? So it's shaping up to be really good, and I'm glad that this particular episode gave so many answers. This was an episode where everything pretty much just about everything was revealed. Most of your questions are pretty much answered. Which upset me, though, is that this one didn't quite give us all the answers that we wanted. So, I'm still hoping for more episodes that are going to reveal more questions, because I thought that was a really cool focal point. Even though this one didn't do it, that still did not deter from my love of this episode. Even though really the story focused almost solely on Jim and Commander Taylor, with just small little bits being given for the other characters. Of course, they had a part involving Reynolds and how his crew was attacked by the Sixers, and of course that leading up to them figuring out, okay, the Sixers are communicating. They knew exactly where it is. How are they doing it? And that gave them, of course, that segued into the into the whole discovery of the Dragonfly. And of course, they had little bits with Maddie and Reynolds and a little love thing going on. And they even had a little bit with Zoe with her playing Commander Taylor in this big school play thing that they were doing for the festival, which was pretty cute, even though it didn't really develop Zoe that as much as I'd like it to. And that's the only thing that's kind of like, they haven't developed Zoe as much as a character as I'd want, as I would like that. But this episode really was an episode was focusing on Jim. They're really doing a good job with Jim's background as a cop, and him being a huge benefit for Terra Nova, but him also, because he's a cop, ends up sticking his nose into a lot of things that it's probably best that he doesn't stick it into. But things are coming out the better for it. And because of this, Jim, who was very, very suspicious of Commander Taylor beforehand, I believe he's developed a much bigger respect for him. And of course, that's what I believe the writers are intending, that the audience sees Commander Taylor in a new light and realizes this guy really is a good guy, despite how acting he is. That's a new word in the dictionary. But on the whole, this episode I could find very little to no fault in. This episode earns an easy 10. This was great. This was, when it came to just the big reveal, played it out wonderfully. The plot had a lot of twists and turns and finally coalesced on that one big reveal, and it was awesome. So I can't wait to see what they do next. And so now we're sitting here, okay, we know what's going on, we know the stakes, we know what happened, we know the history. What now? Now, kind of wondering, is the son going to finally figure out how to open the gate both ways? And then when he does that, what's going to happen then? And I'm hoping that they also talk about some things that are going on in 2149 that may be working in favor of the colony rather than you just exploiting the thing. Even though they did make that big reveal about, I forget what they called the place where they launch the people into the time, where they have the people go into the time crack, but they said that they don't really run the place. So I'm hoping to see some really good things from this point on. I'm hoping they're not going to lay back on their laurels, and so I'm pretty sure that the next episode is probably going to be one of those, kind of pulls back, takes it easy, makes a smaller story, but yet puts in some interesting build-up. So we'll see. So that's my take on this episode of Terra Nova. Great episode. Agree, disagree, want to talk about it? As I always say, leave your comments down in the comments section. Comment, rate, subscribe. And like I said, always in the comment section, keep it civil. That's all I ask. And so that's it for my review of this episode of Terra Nova. And so until then, and next time, guys, DecKrash Brandon. Stay lucky and stay blessed.